Howdy, everybody.
Let's
Let's
ride.
ride. Howdy, everybody. My name is Matt Miller. I'm the host of Updog Sports Talk. We got the Wild West today. I'm joined by Justin McGovern. What is up, Justin?
What is this? I did not see this coming. Who are you? What'd you do with Matt?
Give it about 5 seconds and you'll find out.
Well, I won't do that, but let's go ahead and preview the AFC West. Let's
ride.
And
That's all
first,
that hat was for.
Up first, Broncos country. Let's ride. Broncos country.
Let's
ride. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride.
Denver Broncos. Now, they brought in Russell Wilson in one of the biggest moves this offseason. I mean, look at this man. This guy just
wearing his own jersey out in the wild. Like,
just exudes confidence. Like, there's no better picture to pick for this team than this right here. Just look at him. He's just walking in the camp, sunglasses on, his own jersey on. I mean, shoes that perfectly match the jersey and pants combo. Like, this guy is just ready to go. And then look at the vehicle he arrived in.
That was massive.
Look at that thing.
It was a massive Dodge.
An absolute unit of a vehicle.
He's just screaming Colorado right now. All right, jumping right in to the Denver Broncos after our long-winded introduction. Man,
hey, we had to do it.
Getting Russ was huge for them because they were trash last year. But I mean, they have a really good offensive line. I like their receivers. They had a little bit of depth too. So they got Sutton, Judy, Hamler, and I like Hinton. He's not too bad.
Yeah, Hinton got thrown in the NFL by storm several years ago. He was a wide receiver that had to play quarterback during one of the COVID games, but he's progressing as a receiver pretty well. And overall, the receivers look pretty good. Obviously, Judy has tons of potential. He struggled with drops a little bit last year, but you feel like he's going to sort that out.
When you Drew Lock, you're going to drop everything.
Excellent route runner. Sutton kind of struggled last year, but he was coming off a torn ACL in a bad offense with Drew Lock throwing to him and not creative play calls. So
Hamler's turned himself into a guy.
Yeah. Now, the question is, how does he recover after a torn ACL? That may rob him of some of his abilities for this year. He may not come on until later on. And obviously, Tim Patrick was lost to a torn ACL before the season even started, so that's a little bit of a loss.
That was a huge loss.
But like you said, the offensive line is strong, and this running game is going to be pretty good too.
Yeah, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, like, shoot away. And Cincinnati guy, Mike Boone's behind him.
He's been like a practice squad and preseason star here for a few years.
Yeah. But I like their offense. I like the Broncos offense, but tight end, they're gonna miss Noah Fant. But I do not know how to say his name. Webinar. I don't know.
Albert O.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of talent, but Russ hasn't been a guy that's utilized tight ends all that much, I feel like. He'll throw them.
When they got Jimmy Graham, he did a little bit.
Yeah.
When the Seahawks got Jimmy Graham, he did a little bit. So kind of interesting to see where he progresses, but tight end's pretty thin. They don't really have a whole lot of like experience and they don't have any guys.
They have a lot of young guys back there, really.
Yeah. But defensively is kind of where things kind of fall apart. Randy Gregory was a huge get, especially since they lost Von Miller at the trade deadline or on Halloween last year. and Bradley Chubb's. He actually hasn't been the same since his injury, but he's still got the talent.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's not really many names that just pop off the page to me.
Yeah, and I mean Bradley Chubb,
their secondary though is good.
Bradley Chubb needs to be healthy for sure. Even when he only played in 7 games last year, didn't notch a single sack, and just very clearly wasn't the same player. Like I think it may be more. I don't think it's a super long term, like will last several years injuries. I think it was just the injuries he was dealing with at the time that made him struggle and didn't allow him to be his normal self. So he needs to get back to his normal self. If he does, then that's huge for them. And like you said, though, the secondary is amazing. Patrick Surtain just looks like he's going to be an absolute problem for receivers this year. Like he has wreaked havoc in camp so far. And Justin Simmons is one of the best safeties in the NFL.
Yeah. And then they got Ronald Darby too. So they're pretty good in the secondary.
Yeah, Darby just needs to stay healthy.
Deep. Yeah. They're just not deep, you know?
Right. Yeah, that is a challenge for them.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have super high expectations for them just because of all the moves the rest of the division has made. And then is Russ going to cook here? We'll see, but
Russ might cook. Russ might cook. I feel like now one theme that we're going to have throughout this entire show here is that every single team in this division is a playoff contender. If they were in a different division, they would very clearly be a playoff team. But that's the problem with this division. This division's really strong. And
I mean, I personally have them last in the division. We'll get to that a little later.
Don't give out the picks early. Come on now.
Just trying to ruffle up some fans out in Colorado.
Man, after we did the Let's Ride and everything, you went and did that. But
had to.
But yeah, I mean, everyone's a playoff contention. Everyone's a playoff contender. Everyone's a division contender in this division. So that will be a theme you will hear going forward. Mentioning that, how about we go on to our next team? The Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you see here, this is a picture of X Factor, the Chiefs super fan, who ended up getting kicked out, and they made a whole their actual news station. I cannot believe their news station made an article about this. That's why I picked this, because we have to bring attention to that real quick. Just the fact that was something that actually happened last year.
Yeah.
The funny thing was that was like the low point of the year too for them, where things were really starting to fall apart. And then after that, really, they actually kind of turned things around a little bit. They started to figure things out, started to get more patient when defenses were defending deep, and they still won the division, still won the number 2 seed, and made a run to the AFC Championship. As they say, the Chiefs is the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, losing Tyreek Hill is huge. But I think they did enough to kind of combat that. I think they're a little bit deeper now at wide receiver with drafting Sky Moore, getting Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then getting Juju. I think they got deeper at receiver, just they don't have that top of the line guy. So they got some guys that have a little bit of experience, have a little bit of talent. And Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's going to do his thing. So I think they're going to be okay. Clyde Edwards-Helaire needs to step it up. I don't know if it was just because he was on my fantasy team last year or what, but he's got to do better in this offense, because behind him, they got Jerick McKinnon, and then Pacheco's pretty good, and then they also got Ronald Jones. And they still have Derek Gores. We can't forget about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, at receiver, it definitely helps that they're going to be a little bit deeper. They just don't have the threat of Hill. And I think Andy Reid's just going to utilize each guy differently each week. Like, maybe one week will be Marquez Valdez-Scantling week. One week will be a Sky Moore week. Another week will be a Juju week, when he'll be dancing. And I'm just realizing, so like TikTokers made Mahomes' life absolute hell last year, and they add Juju to the mix.
Yeah, but
I'm just
Jackson
realizing
is in
this just
LA.
now live on the show. Like they added him too. Like he had enough TikTokers with his brother and his wife making issues last year. Now
Yeah, but
they
his
added
brother
his
moved
top
to LA,
receiver.
so it's not a huge issue. Juju's about him, not about
Oh,
causing
okay.
distractions.
Okay, so you take one headache TikToker and replace him with a receiver headache TikToker instead. We cannot air
Hey,
this show on TikTok, that's for sure. But
no.
um,
Um, offensive line though, they're okay. I think they really could be better. But this team gonna come down to defense.
yeah. Well, no,
Karloftis was
one thing we gotta mention about the offensive line is that actually all 5 starters from last year are back. That
yeah, but they weren't
continuity
that
is gonna
great.
help.
They weren't
Hey,
that great
continuity
like
helps
throughout
though.
the year. But defensively, Karloftis seems to be the guy. But it remains to be seen if he's gonna be like a big factor, you know. Um,
Yeah,
like he can win the job, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna get it done. And then Chris Jones is Chris Jones. He's gonna do his thing.
he's gonna be really good.
Frank Clark was disappointing. He needs to step it up. Nick Bolton, I'm gonna let you do your spiel on Nick Bolton.
I mean, yeah, the guy just wreaked havoc on offenses last year. He was as a second round rookie, he was definitely a huge surprise for everyone. Like he played super well. I definitely hated seeing the Bills go up against him because yeah, he was just trouble.
Yeah, and second in the secondary, they're actually like really strong. Sneed, Justin Reed is a good fill in for um Matthew leaving. Uh Thornhill was pretty solid. The only thing is we got to see what Trent McDuffie does.
Yeah, and he's
Cuz
expected to fill in because Ward is gone.
yeah, but behind him there's not a whole lot of depth at corner.
No, not at
So
all.
that could be a big issue going forward. But they still got Butker, and now they have Justin Reed as a solid backup hitting 65 yarders. Um, but I don't think they're going to be as good as years past, but I think they're still going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it looks like a little bit of a step back from Super Bowl contention, but really, I mean, they're just like a few figuring out a few pieces here and there from being back there again.
Right. Or a few
And I mean,
surprises here and there.
yeah, there'll be a few times this year where it feels like they're trying to figure things out, but the Chiefs is the Chiefs. I mean, still expect them to be in the playoffs for sure, and who knows, they'll probably still find a way possibly to winning the division again.
They did get Justin Ross, but he's on IR.
Yeah. Yeah, what a
I forgot to mention that.
he looks so good back in college, but
I know.
yeah, we'll see what his
Not been the
career
same.
does.
Who we got next?
Next, we have the Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders, who just so surprisingly made a run to the playoffs last year. Like they went through everything. John Gruden had the whole thing of his emails come out where they found the whole thing with his emails, and I mean, they were awful. I mean, definitely he deserved to get fired. But it was very funny that the NFL then said like release like 5 o'clock on Friday that nothing else is found. It's like, okay, so we're just casually having this, but nothing else happened. Are you sure? But
Right.
yeah, he got fired, and Rich Bisaccia, how's your family? Led this team to the playoffs somehow. I mean, it was just an incredible run they had. And now, apparently, that wasn't good enough for him to get the job. I have no idea how, but Josh McDaniels now steps in. McDaniels obviously failed in pretty epic
Denver.
fashion with Denver, but he was also general manager at that time and made terrible moves, just
Yeah.
terrible free agency moves, terrible draft moves, and sunk that team at the time.
Made Tim
This
Tebow
time,
look good, so
yeah, true. So this
um
time he's more in charge of actually being a coach, which he's better at. So this team, I mean, the big move now getting to the big move here, they had Devontae Adams, one of the top receivers in the NFL this year.
Derek Carr's roommate in college, so they got some chemistry.
Yeah, they have a good connection. I mean, Devontae Adams is obviously excited to play for his former college teammate. You add that in a decent receiving core as is, like Hunter Renfrow was just a stud at getting open. He found every hole the defense had pretty much. And then Darren Waller is one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL. And then you have a few other secondary weapons that are pretty good as well. Like this team has some strong weapons. And then running backs, Josh Jacobs is decent, but and then
He
Zamir
needs
White
to
I
take a
think was
step
a
up.
steal. Yeah,
Yeah, big steal. And
but
then they do have Brandon Bolden and Kenyon Drake still.
yeah, they just added Bolden this offseason.
Yeah.
And so obviously that was the McDaniels
Yeah.
influence move for sure. But the offensive line, I think, is the biggest issue. They have Colton Miller, who's really good at left tackle, but pretty much all the other spots need to be figured out because
I mean, Alex
it's not
Leatherwood
looking
has
good.
potential, but
He's been a bust so far.
yeah. So it's gonna come down to, can they protect Derek Carr? Because they didn't do that great of a job last year. Raiders just got lucky getting in the playoffs. But they also signed Chandler Jones.
What a huge move.
Dude, when they got him, I was like, okay, now you can put the Raiders in contention.
Yeah,
But
and you
they
put
got
him next to Max Crosby, who has just
gonna be unfair.
He's been getting better and better every single year. Last year finally, like, he got to the point where everyone knew who he was because he just took the football world by storm. I mean, he was ridiculous, and now I mean he'll probably just get better this year too. That's one of the most scary pass rushing duos in the NFL.
Yeah, and then linebackers, they're not great, but Perriman, pretty
Yeah.
solid. They have Kenny Young, and then it's into the secondary. Um, Trayvon Mullen, Jonathan Abrams, Trayvon Mooring, Rock Ya-Sin, like they're pretty solid in the secondary.
Yeah, not a lot of depth though.
No,
Trayvon Mullen needs to stay healthy. Rock Ya-Sin was a pretty big addition this offseason. He'll solidify a spot. Abram is all right. He needs to improve a little bit, but Borig was just really a revelation in the secondary this past year.
yeah, and then they did get Darius Phillips, who's a really good return guy, but I didn't even realize they have Amir Garrett or Amir Abdullah as well.
Amir Garrett, come on.
Wrong sport, wrong sport.
Come on now.
But they do have Amir Abdullah. I really like him, but man,
Yeah, he brings another pass catching option to the offense. But
yeah,
I mean,
they're pretty solid. I don't really have too many bad things to say. Like the linebacking and offensive line, and to get out of their own way.
yeah. And I mean, this team, like we said, I mean, that every team in this division is a playoff contender, and the schedule is just really difficult. They not only is every team in this division a playoff contender, but they have to play each other and then also play the NFC West, which brings even more tough matchups into the mix. Like,
Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting, and obviously we're going to see these teams a lot because they'll be in prime time a lot.
all the time.
But yeah, should be a good season for the Raiders. It's just literally a question of how they could do against their division mates for how good of a season it will be. On
Go
to
Chargers, go!
the Los Angeles Chargers, and I have an old powder blue LT jersey for this show. I
Oh,
really dug
nice.
this one out from the closet on this one, but yeah, this team, it really is a mystery. Like looking at it, kind of like how they went 9-8 last year with the talent they had, but the offensive side, they have been because once they found out Herbert was a guy, they have been working to address the offensive line more and more each year. Zion Johnson really solidifies that now. I mean, he pretty much fills the last hole they had in the offensive line. So they'll have one of the better lines in the NFL. That'll give Herbert time to hit Mike Williams deep. And then also, obviously, Pepper targets to Keenan Allen as well. Depth is a concern, though, because no one's really emerged as the number 3 receiver just yet. But Josh
Jalen
Palmer,
Guyton seems to be like in the mix, but yeah,
yeah,
Josh Palmer seems to be getting more of the reps at the 3.
yeah. So it seems like he's the guy that needs to step up. He was a draft pick just last year. And then Austin Eckler has just been the guy at running back. Like he has been doing it all for them. He runs the ball well, can find his way, has a nose for the end zone, really finds his way in the end zone a lot. And then also just an excellent receiver out of the backfield. But lacking depth behind him was an issue, but they addressed that with the draft pick of Isaiah Spiller. So, and
He's
he
pretty
might be able to
solid.
take a little bit of the load off of Eckler this year.
And maybe Joshua Kelly can be that big mauler up front. But yeah,
Yeah.
Gerald Everett, I being a Rams fan, I watched him play like a decent amount and he was solid. He kind of got pushed away from being targeted with Russ last year, but um he's a solid target. Not gonna beat not gonna be better than Kittle or Waller or any of them, but
No.
um or Kelsey, but he's not a bad option. But like you said,
Honestly, the only
wide
time that
receiver
ever,
depth.
yeah, the only time that ever caught my attention last year was one game. I think I even desperately put him in for fantasy football, and he had like 2 catches and 2 fumbles. It was a complete disaster.
Yeah. Defensively, adding Khalil Mack,
What a
huge
move!
addition. Him and Joey Bosa are just gonna eat.
Yeah,
Um,
possibly the most terrifying pass rushing duo in the NFL.
yeah, and then they got Murray and Tranquil behind him, so they're pretty solid right in
Yeah,
that front four um and linebacker. Uh, they did get Sebastian Joseph Day, who will help a little bit with their run game, but they were pretty bad against the run last year.
they were terrible against the run, and really, honestly, this is the main one of the main problems with the team. Like this is why they missed the playoffs. They in the must-win game against the Texans of all teams, they let Rex Burkhead roll up like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns on them. That is just humiliating. So they really need to fix that. Sebastian Joseph Day is like really the only hint of a move they made towards that. But
Yeah.
even he is he's balanced a little bit. He offers quite a bit in the pass rush, is a decent run stuffer, but he's not supposed to be your main run stopping guy. I'm disappointed they didn't do more to address the run defense, but obviously they're all in at stopping the pass because the other big move they made was
JC Jackson,
AC Jackson. Adding him brings them a
huge
top
addition.
corner to the mix now. Like, it's gonna be
Top
hard to throw
corner.
in the
Then they got
secondary.
Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah,
And he looks like he's
he
like
looks
his
like he's gonna
dad.
be good.
And then Bryce Callahan in the slot, not a bad option.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and
he
then
needs to
Derwin
stay
James is
healthy.
probably the best safety in the NFL.
Yeah, Bryce Callahan and Derwin James. The big problem with both of them has been health. And I think that's why the Chargers have been hesitant to extend Derwin James. And is he holding out still? I think he might be holding out or holding in, but he definitely wants a new
I think he's holding
contract.
in so he doesn't get fined.
Yeah, yeah, one of those situations. The hold in situation's been a new one the past few years, ever since they changed the rules around that. But yeah, Derwin James is I think they're hesitant to give him a contract because he hasn't been healthy. The best
Yeah,
ability is availability sometimes.
kind of like how Bates hasn't gotten a contract too.
Yeah.
It's like both of them have been kind of hurt or inconsistent. So they really should lock him up, but it's coming down to money and uh Derwin James is gonna try to get his. So I like where the Chargers are going. Um kind of hate it only because of somehow Herbert and Burrow became this uh rivalry that's not really a rivalry. Um but yeah, I mean I like where the Chargers are going.
Yeah, people like to compare quarterbacks in the same draft class just because, but yeah, the Chargers are making moves. They're trying to make their way towards the top of the division, and certainly they'll be contenders for that. And like every team in this division, the contender for the playoffs as well. Tough schedule now. On to our picks for the AFC West, and we got a lot to go through here because Matt, we disagree on everything.
Yeah. So I chose the Chargers only because I know they went 9-8 last year, and the Chiefs have been king. What's funny is they're all Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers have won 15 division titles. The Chiefs have won 14. So yeah, they were going for the four-way tie. Yeah, but I honestly think with the moves that the Chargers made, I think that kind of outweighs all the other moves, plus the team they already had on top of those moves. I just think the Chargers take the division this year. This is their kind of year to take out the Wild West. The Chiefs still going to be solid, but I don't know. I think with the secondary that some of these teams have, it's just not going to be that great of a day for Patrick Mahomes every single week. Raiders would love to put them at number 1 in the division, but I just don't see it from the offensive line. I think that's the big difference between first and third is the offensive line. And then the Broncos could win the division in any other division, but they ain't going to be riding too far this year.
Well, I feel like the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I mean, even though things are a lot different this year, I feel like Andy Reid's going to figure out on the offense. He's got fun with having 3 number 2 weapons versus having a number 1 weapon, and basically they'll find their way in the winning division again. It'll be very tight. Probably will even come down to the last week, but I think they'll figure out a way to win the division. Broncos, it felt like this team was just on the verge. Obviously they struggled last year, but it felt like this team was really badly missing a quarterback and probably better play calling too, to be honest. They get both of that now with Russell Wilson and Hackett in there. Broncos country's going to be right into the playoffs. And the Chargers, it'll be a bubble situation for them to make the playoffs. I'm just concerned about the run defense, and especially going up against a team like the Broncos, who the Broncos are going to be the best running team in this division. And
by far.
Yeah. So I think the Chargers are a huge disadvantage against them in particular. So I think that's going to hurt them. You can't really have a big disadvantage against one of the teams in this division because they're all really good. But yeah, I think the Chargers will have a good year as well. I just see them below those 2 teams at the moment. And then the Raiders, it's just you gotta have an offensive line. Everyone else in front of them has a decent offensive line. The Raiders are the only ones that don't. I think they'll be competitive too. It was really hard to put them last. I mean, this is the toughest division to pick, as you can tell by the fact that we both disagreed on everything. But yeah, it was just so tough to figure out. And yeah, I think just the question mark of their offensive line, and then I mean, some of the pieces on their defense outside the pass rush are a bit concerning. So that's why I had them in last. But again, I mean, the gap between first and fourth in this division is smaller than any other division. This division is just
I mean, literally all of them can legit make the playoffs this year.
I mean, this might be the best division in NFL history that we're previewing here.
Probably.
And I don't think the math works out for every team to make the playoffs, so someone's going to miss it. But
yeah,
they all could be playoffs.
They're up to 7 teams now, aren't they? Yeah, they're up to 7 teams.
Yeah,
so true. If the Chiefs win the division, then they could get 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, but of course, don't forget they have to play the NFC West as well, which is going to hurt them.
That's true. Well, got anything, Justin?
No, that is all. What a lot of fun it was talking about this division. I mean, it is crazy how loaded this division is. Cheers to all these teams for the moves they made this year to be competitive.
Yeah. Gonna be a good division, but for us though, give us some love too. at Updog Sports Talk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Am I forgetting anything? We're on like a lot of things.
I think you got it all. I don't think the TikTok people are gonna like me a lot for this video, especially the Chiefs part, but
hit the bell button, get some notifications of when we post, and keep following along, guys. I'll see you.
Let's ride.
Ride.